Welcome to Getting Naked, where we strip away the bullshit and dive headfirst into the raw, unfiltered, and hilariously messy world of life and entrepreneurship.
We're here to expose the real truths of owning a business and the gut-wrenching challenges that pop up along the way. More importantly, the mind-blowing rewards while we juggle personal growth, wild adventures as digital entrepreneurs traveling the world, and the ins and outs of an interracial relationship, all seasoned with those what the fuck moments that make it all worthwhile.
This isn't your typical buttoned-up podcast. We're uncensored, unapologetically authentic, and just plain funny as fuck. We live by facts over feelings, bringing you the real deal without sugarcoating shit. So, buckle up buttercups, and get ready to get real, get raw, and most importantly, have a laugh with us.
But wait, there's more. We're breaking new ground into the Metaverse with our Hello Plaza. That's right, folks, we're taking this shit to the next level. We are one of the first podcasts in the Metaverse. You can join us from all your devices. Hell, you can even join from your cell phone. Just press the damn button and join us. You won't blow up. We promise.
Now, let's get naked.
So I want to show you how easy it is to get into the metaverse from your actual phone or your laptop or iPad. You're going to be able to follow the same process. So what you're going to do first is you're going to go to the hellollc.io, our wonderful biz in a box, more than a website, and experience into our smart link. And you're going to scroll down and you're going to find a big button that says Hello Plaza. And when you find that button, you're going to see it and you're going to press it just like that one time. And it's going to take you to a different web page where you're going to hit play. And then it's going to ask you if you want to download an actual app, and you're going to hit open. And you're going to say yes. And then you're going to download this simple app. Now that this app has completely downloaded, you're going to hit open. And you're going to say allow to paste. Guess what? Boom. It is now uploading you into the Hello Plaza. This is how you enter into the metaverse from your phone or your laptop or your iPad. And my friends, this is the future.
And how is everybody doing today? Hopefully everybody is doing amazing and well. If you don't know, you are with the Getting Naked podcast live in the Hello Plaza in Metaverse that we want you guys to come and join us. As you just saw the amazing video where you can join from your cell phone, you can join from your laptop, you can join from your iPad. And if you happen to have VR headsets, then yes, you can come and join us in the Getting Naked podcast where you can ask questions, you can be a part of this live. And if you don't know, today's conversation is going to be all about uncensored and exposed what it's really like dating an interracial couple that me and Tara are already part of. We've been together for the last 14 plus years. And let me tell you, it has been a journey from all around the way. And it is, definitely a different challenge. It is definitely a different mindset. And I can assure you that most people would not be able to, go down the journey or, go through the riffraff and the differences and things of that sort, because it's just so much easier. And I will share with you guys all that, now being 42 years old, 41 years old, about to be 42, right? Me and Tara have been, digital nomads, traveling the world and, living in Houston, Texas, one of the most melting pot, places in the United States, still dealt with some things. And today we're really going to talk about, our communication that we have with each other, family and friends, the general public or society viewpoint, and then really, especially that we have our own business about business. And so, Love, what you got to say to that?
Well, hello, beautiful people. It's so good to be here with everybody, and happy Friday. And so if you're joining us on any of the live streams that we're coming to you, thanks for being here. And it's going to be a great conversation. We're going to dive into a little bit about interracial relationships, not just about the relationships, but also, friends and family, how it affects business, how we see it within a societal view and things like that. So, it's a great conversation. And I have to say, yesterday we were listening into a kind of a similar conversation that was happening, and it just really showed me how, this topic is such a topic that is ongoing. Ongoing is a good word for it. It's an ongoing conversation, and it's something that we really need to, be able to get in front of. So yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation. Thanks for being here. Mr. Jones, which topic are we starting off on first? You know how we which one do you want? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
So, I think the first one that we're going to start off with is, the communication question, the communication that we have with each other. And a lot of the times, people, or should I say, when we first got together, we didn't know how this was going to go, especially this being your first, interracial, relationship. And I'll just have to share with you guys all this right now is that, I grew up in a predominantly white, elementary school. I went to a predominantly, mixed, middle school. I went to a predominantly, mixed, high school, but primarily white. And then I, got shipped off to Kansas, and that was definitely, primarily white. And so something that I've shared with Tara that, I know the game. I know, the things that have been played. I've seen them myself, especially being in school. I'll never forget when I was in elementary school, my teacher, start making fun of me and telling people that I couldn't read, and all the kids, chastised me. And, that really stuck with me for a while. And I've shared with you guys that my dad slapped the shit out of me, when I couldn't read the word turtle. So I didn't like reading out loud, but I would read all the time internally. And just till I was probably 39, I got over that trauma of reading out loud. And we all have those traumas. And especially when you put, the race on top of it, and then the stigmatism that people have and the lack of understanding that we have, I've had to communicate these things to Tara and really share with her, stories that she would not understand. And that's something that we've talked about as well, when Tara and all of my Caucasian people out there, Latino people out there, Indian people out there, regardless of what you are, you can't tell another person that you understand, how it feels for them. And a lot of the times in society, you will hear, in this case, Caucasian people say, "Oh, I understand." No, you don't understand. That's kind of like you telling, a man telling a woman, "Hey, I know how it feels to have a baby." No, you don't. You have no clue what it feels like to have a baby, right? You have no clue what it is to be on your period. So no, you can't tell me how it feels or how you understand. And a lot of the times you have that conversation, and it's really a stigmatism that doesn't serve well. And we've had that conversation, and just being aware of how that comes up and, how that plays a part on both sides. That yes, I get that you want to understand, you want to cope, you want to, wish everything was better, but you don't live it 24/7, and you don't know the looks, you don't know the energy, the vibration, and the after effect that comes with being Black, and the situations that I've had to go through that you do not have any clue about, as I shared earlier. And so, that's where I like to start, is really with the communication piece that we have with each other that now we can have out loud, because that's what this podcast is about. Uncensored, unstoppable, right? Really being real, raw, and authentic, and AKA, funny as AF. And you know what that means, right? So that's what I got to say on that, love.
Absolutely. And it's funny because before you and I ever dated, correction, this is not the first interracial relationship I've had, but this was the first interrelationship with a Black person, yes, and more specific, a Black man. I have dated. I was married before. My ex-husband was Hispanic, and he was half Mexicano and half Puerto Rican. So I've been in different cultures, and I will say, one thing about that is now that we've spent the past 2.5 years here in Mexico, in Guanajuato, Mexico, that time that I spent with my ex-husband learning that culture of the Hispanic culture has really lent to my benefit many, many, many moons down the road, right? So I share that just because at the end of the day, it's as we go through these lessons, they're great lessons to be able to carry knowledge with you and forward. And that's why we're having this conversation today. And like you said, within communication, those are the same like lessons and knowledge that you learn within a culture that's different than yours, that allows us to be able to get on the same page, to have an awareness, as we have talked about. Something that I'm highly keen on, that I have learned not only through Mr. Jones by helping me and sharing with me, but also listening to other community members that are within the Black community, that states, the word understanding, right? And I think that's a good, healthy, it's good to understand why saying the word understanding does not work when you're trying to hear the point of view from another perspective, whichever race that might be. It could be Asian, it could be Hispanic, it could be, Black, it could be, Eastern European, whatever it is, Middle Eastern. There's different conversations. And so my point being around that communication factor that you were sharing was the simple fact that we can't ever walk a mile in anybody else's shoes, and we can have an awareness, but an understanding. If you haven't walked a mile within those shoes, just like you said, you haven't delivered a baby, so you don't know what that feels like. Neither have I, FYI. You've never went through cramps. I have done that, so you've just never done that, so you don't understand how that feels, just like I do not understand how it feels to wake up every day and my skin color is Black, and there's no turning it off, as you and I have had those conversations. And that was one conversation that we've had intimately, and I say intimately within our own confinement of our own relationship, that being able to, the other day I shared with David, I said, I just want to acknowledge that I do understand why you think about worst case scenarios every time something happens. And that is because every day you wake up and you're a Black man. And as David shared with me within that share, he told me, I wake up every day and that's the worst case scenario has already been brought to me. I'm not even asking for it. I'm not even wanting it to show up on my doorstep, but it is here. And the worst case, so I must always plan for the worst case scenario. And I used to, and this is, and I have, what I will say to everybody who's listening is I have no shame in my game, in the sense of I will stand 100% corrected and be like, I was so tone deaf. I was so dumb to the awareness, and I wasn't even aware one at all. Even though I lived in the vibration and the world that I thought I was. And that I've learned so much in communicating between you and I, and learning how communication styles happen within the last, 14, working on 15 years together. And I couldn't have garnered an awareness that I have today without David helping me, from just him sharing his experiences. And so we're going to, this portion of like communication is going to weave throughout the rest of the conversation, but I'll park my scooter there. I could talk about this forever and a day, which is why we're doing this conversation, why we're having this podcast. But I just want to say, thanks everybody for being here. And if you want to jump in, you're more than welcome to join us in the Metaverse. go to thehellollc.io and you see us in the metaverse. You guys could actually come in and be a part of the studio audience if you wanted to be. So, Mr. Jones, let me pass this mic back to you, and so we can circle on the wagons.
Yeah, and more so when we talk about understanding, as I share with Tara, you can't tell me how things are associated for me or how I should take those things. And I think we get in a lot of trouble when we do assume, whether it's race, whether it's relationship, whether it's business, we assume what the other person is feeling or how they should feel based upon our life and based upon the things that we've went through and how we would handle situations, not living through their life. And so as we share with people, putting on a different set of lenses, and even more so being aware of how that comes across, and even not candy coating the shit, that we share. And I've shared with Tara all the time, if white people all of a sudden sat out here and said, you know what, we're not racist anymore. We're not going to be racist anymore. All of that is dead and gone. Forgiveness, all of that. Black people would be just as racist because we've both been brought up a certain way. And we've heard those conversations, Black people this, white people that, they do this, they do that. And unfortunately, that's the energy that we grow up with. And so when we do come across another race, those dialects, those conversations, those ways that we have, grown up with are already there. They're already brought up. And even more so, when we talk about that, it's true. And we run from these things and not being aware of these things, and it might not be racist, energy, but it's just the predetermined conditioned ways that we are unaware of how we react. And this is something that we share all the time in our weekly rooms, is that, you have these traumas, you have these dramas, you have these patterns, and you have these programs, and they run in all facets of our life, and even responding to other people. And I've shared with Tara, I see it all the time now that she's with me, right? And I would share with her these stories of things that I've went through in my past, and even back then. Now that she's with me, she sees it even more when we're walking around, and when we're, and now that I've brought these things to her attention, these are the things that she was unaware of that now she is aware of, and vice versa. And so that's why when we say, be open-minded, have these conversations, and not assume, and not really, think that you know everything based off of your past.
Absolutely. And one example of that is, we'll just speak about our relationship, is the changing the goalposts. Yeah. I was sharing with David just a couple of days ago that it took a long time in our relationship, David, to say, you're changing the goalposts. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not changing the goalposts. And he was like, yeah, we were talking about this, and then you moved to this. And I'm like, no, I didn't. No, I didn't do that. That's not what I did. And, over all the years of being together and being able to hold each other accountable, and that's the beauty of it, is first we had to learn how to allow each other to hold each other accountable. But once we've been able to master the art of allowing to call the other person up and not calling them out and holding them accountable, David's been able to show me, and it actually happened, I think it was yesterday or something. There was a situation within business that somebody changed the goalpost. And I literally, when I, saw that, I was like, oh, that was, the goalpost is being changed right there. And David's like, yep, see? And so why I share that is because David being able to share his experiences and show me, and I'll be honest, in the beginning, it was because we didn't know how to communicate. Back to this word communication, because we didn't know how to communicate, and to be able to respect each other's, share, was we struggled with being able to say, hey, you're changing the goalposts, right? And so it came.
We didn't struggle, your ass wouldn't admit it.
Yeah, absolutely. But for exactly, absolutely. We both have instances where our ego and our pride shows up and we don't want to admit it. We don't want to say, oh yeah, you're because of the, for me, it's the ego pride know-it-all. Right. Oh yeah, I know that. And you don't know everything. But with sharing, about the goalpost changing, because that's happened in our relationship and I have done that. And the thing is not even aware of it. I haven't even been aware of changing the goalposts. And then all of a sudden it comes down to the simple fact of, because David has shared with that and pointed it out and, called me up on it, it has allowed me to garner an awareness, strengthen that muscle to be like, oh, that's changing the goalposts. And now it's funny because there's times that if David and I are having a discussion, I'm like, hey, you're changing the goalposts. He's like, what? You can't use that on me. I'm like, but you are. But the point being is now I'm so attuned to it. I'm tuned into that frequency that it's allowing to be able to share with the other person, hey, that goalpost being changed. That's a prime example of, one communication, where we, well, I'll say it this way, as a white woman is clueless to how that quote unquote, air quotes are up, privilege shows up because of who I am and what skin color I am. And those are the things that we talk about. And that's, it'll be woven into, a little bit later, but a lot of times in the white community, we're like, why is it always brought up around, race? Why is what did I say always like, I understand what you feel, and just saying that word, that statement, just saying a broad statement to somebody of color, I understand what you feel. A white person is majority of white people, let me put it this way, are completely clueless of how insensitive that remark is. Because you haven't walked a day in another person's shoes, let alone someone of color, whether it's black, brown, purple, pink, or whatever. You haven't ever walked a day in those shoes. And so to say, I understand how you feel, no, you don't ever. And the point I'm trying to make here is that majority of white people are oblivious to the words that they share, the words that come out of their mouth, the communication they use, the language that they use can be very insensitive because you don't have to experience that ever, never, ever, ever, ever. And so one thing that I've seen by being in a relationship, with Mr. Jones and us walking into a restaurant back in Houston, we would walk into a 5-star restaurant and David would be dressed to the nines, suited and booted. And if you don't know what suited and booted means, he's got his suit on, his tie on. He's got, a very nice watch on. He's got his, very nice shoes on. And I'm, dressed equally as nice. And the looks, whoever it is. And for a long time, I would tell David, well, that's because I'm, a 6'2", 6'3" blonde in high heels. And, you're also a black man. So that we just stick out altogether, and David would share with me experiences. And then I would see those same experiences that would come to life while I was with him. And that firsthand experience brought so much value to me to see, okay, I'm aware of what he's sharing with me. I'm aware of the conversation that he's having and he's sharing of what happens. I just saw it from my own 2 eyes. And when it's brought to your doorstep and when you have that firsthand knowledge, and what I mean firsthand is by seeing it happen, you have a different perspective than when I wasn't with David and David wasn't in my life. When I was, a single white female, I didn't have these experiences. And so this is why we have a conversation about this. This is why we have, what it's like to have an interracial relationship, because, as we're digital nomads, this has changed a little bit, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But Mr. Jones, pass this mic back to you, my love.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, right? And as we transition, into this conversation, especially when we talk about family and friends, and being in an interracial relationship, and you were able to see, and we were able to see, and even had our own family sit there and tell us when things weren't going right. Well, David's black, and you guys are in an interracial couple, and it's very hard. And I remember specifically, hearing, you share that, oh, my mom said this, and maybe we shouldn't be together, and it just, you have outside influences, especially older generation influences that will creep up, and I mean, no harm, no foul, right? But it's what's so. And that's the conditions and that's the patterns that I was talking about earlier that we're kind of conditioned with. And little do people know that, 75% of Americans approve of interracial, couples. So if you're listening to this or know somebody that doesn't like interracial couples, they're part of the 25% that don't like it. And if they're between the ages of 18 and 29, it goes up to like 95%. And so, and then even when we talk about marriages of interracial couples, specifically black and white, right? In the 1980s, there was 167,000 marriages, right, between black and white couples. In 2009, it's now jumped up to about 550,000. So you can even see the numbers didn't jump up that much because of the struggle, because especially when people talk about, oh, is it still that bad, is it still happening? Yes, it's still happening. It's not happening to the extent that it was then, but it was worse then, and it's just as bad now. And most people don't get that, especially when Tara was able to be with me, whether we were suited and booted, whether we were going to the park, whether we were going anywhere. It was the looks that you don't get, that you were unaware of, and just people don't get it. And so this is why we encourage people to understand that, hey, your parents, your family, your friends, really are gonna try to entice you, or give you their feedback of what they think and how the relationship might go based upon society. And I mean, there's multiple times that we've gotten fights, and my dad, my mom just been like, hey, you need to leave that white girl. That white girl ain't no good, this, that, and the other. White girl's gonna do this. Then it's based off something that they had a friend that was with. I'll never forget it. My dad had a friend that his son was with a white girl, and she took him to the cleaners. I mean, he had a business and all, had kids, and she took him to the cleaners. I mean, took away his business, took away the kids, everything. So that was my dad's initial pattern that he could hold on to and be like, ooh, look at here, the symbol, resemblance. And so it's really where we have to pay attention and be self-aware. And I always remind people, not all black people are the same. Not all white people are the same. Yet we put people in a big bucket as if they are the same. And we assume that people's hearts, based upon a race, or, just because you see, there'll be so many times that I would, if you guys don't know, I took 500 flights in 4 years. And I had to, ask myself, do I want to wear my suit and get more respect? Or do I want to, wear jeans and a sweatshirt and be comfortable and just go home and chill after, 3 or 4 days of being away? And 9 times out of 10, guys, I'd have to put on suits and, get more respect. I remember multiple times, being in regular clothes, and I fly a lot. So I'd be in first class, and I'd be in a shirt and some jeans and some tennis shoes. And I get asked, are you supposed to be here? Are you in first class? And, even when we talk about, that, which I kind of skipped a little bit, that I would always get asked, what do you do? Yeah. What do you do? I would hear other people in first class, white people to white people, hey, where are you from? Tell me a little bit more about the kids. Hey, do you do this? Do you do that? When the first question to me would be, what do you do? What are you doing up here, Negro? and it was and that's the things that you as white people won't see or won't be prevalent to, because you're only accustomed to that one conversation, other than me seeing one conversation with white people and then the conversation I get.
Yeah.
And those are things that people just don't get.
Why you share that, I think, from a standpoint of someone listening to this that might not have any skin in the game. What I mean by that is that your significant other is not of a different race, or that your kids are not, or your grandchildren are not. Everybody in your family is of one ethnical background. And so I stand here listening to this conversation, and I listen to the simple fact that some of the stuff that we're saying is a little hard to digest, because, and I say that only because when I was, before I started dating Mr. Jones, and we started our relationship and our life together, I too thought that I'm not racist. I love everybody. Like, I like Black people. What are you talking about? Like, I want to see them win, but it's the micro things. It's the little micro, the looks, the energy, the snide comments, all of that shit. Like, it's there. It really is. And I was not aware of that before I started, my life with Mr. Jones. I would say, I was very open to everybody winning, as long as you're all good, meaning you want good for other people and yourself, and you're not out here inflicting harm. Then of course do whatever. There's enough abundance in this world for you to have what you want. But I was not understanding of the micro abrasions that happen, that really can get underneath people's skin, and how it impacts someone until you're in it. And I was just listening from that perspective while you were sharing that. So a couple of things, when we kind of move over here in the friends and family mode, a couple of examples that has happened. When David and I first started dating, again, we started dating for over 14 years ago. And so when we started dating, I was going to church. I was going to a church that was non-denominational. There was, Black people there. There was white people there. I would see a couple of Asians there, a couple of Hispanic people there. So from my perspective, it was diverse, right? But let me just be real honest. It was predominantly white. Let's call a spade a spade. But at that time, I was not aware of that. And so anyways, I invited David to go to church with me, and David came, and, the looks that we got walking in and out of church. But then when we would get into church, there was a Black pastor. We had people that were, celebrating with a word about, community and loving everybody, no matter their color. And, this was coming from all the pastors, including the Black pastor who was sharing his sermon. And it was just, there was a multitude of pastors. And my point being is,
I don't remember no Black pastor.
There was
predominantly white pastor.
Oh, yeah. There was a predominantly white pastor up on stage. Absolutely. 100% will agree. There was also a Black pastor that I knew, and I don't know if he spoke that day. David says no. He's shaking his head no. And so my point being is that they had that church, that congregation had a Black pastor too. So for the looks that we got going in, and then a sermon about loving your neighbor, and don't let color and creed and all that come in between. And then when we left, the looks that we got, David was just like, I don't think I really want to come back and to this church. And I was like, I understand. And bad word, right? I'm aware of what you're sharing, because he's brought that awareness to me. So that was one example that we had first when we started dating. Another example, and Oh, Mr. Jones, go ahead.
Yeah, and that was the crazy thing about that. And I was a little worried before we went to the church because, mind you, I grew up, in Houston, Texas. And she said, "Oh, we're going to church in Rosenberg." And I was like, "Oh, shit." That's all I needed to hear, that it was in Rosenberg. And she said, "Oh, no, it's a non-denomination church and everybody goes there." And I'm thinking to myself, which, Tara knows this, and I tell people this, there's a song about it. You still a nigga though. I'm still black. You still white. And I'll never forget the looks that we got walking into that church, walking from the car and literally going in. And I'm like, hold on, did they just not hear the same speech that I'm hearing right now? Because if they heard what I heard, wow, I mean, guys, it's, and this is once again something you cannot explain. It's especially if you're not accustomed to it or know the look. And black people, we know the look. We know the look, between an upset stomach and you're disgusted at me being there in your presence. And how dare I be there? And that's some things that white people don't have to deal with, of actually having to worry about where you go, what side of town you go to. You're definitely not going to Fifth Ward. You're definitely not going to Third Ward, out the gate, because you white and there's a whole bunch of black people there, and you just don't go there. Whereas for black people, we got to go where everybody is, and there's going to be a mixture of people, and there's really not a choice that we get to make from that. And so that's why this conversation really is, for us to bring this light to you guys, especially now in this time of crisis, of what's going on. And I'll say it, it's Make America Hate Again. There's a lot more people hating now, coming out of the woodworks, sharing their true colors, all the things that are going on. I know we don't go into politics, but, at some point, everything that's going on right now is just crazy at the end of the day, especially taking away Black History Month and we bring it back, deporting people. This is not, where we're supposed to be headed, especially, from all that we've done. And it just amazes me how people sit by and don't say anything. And then even looking on Facebook, looking on Instagram, these same people that you went to high school with, that you went to college with, these are their true colors that has been there, and they will sit there and smile in your face and make jokes and things of that sort. And that's really, when it comes down to, your friends and your family. I mean, I was just watching a post, with a buddy of mine. We were like thick as thieves, in high school. And here he is, he's posting, real raunchy stuff that definitely, would probably get his ass punched in the face, real talk. And unfortunately, that's where social media and where this has gone to, is a lot of people, don't get punched in the face no more because they're using those fingers to be, Instagram, Facebook, bullies. And they would not dare say some of the things or reference some of the things that they're saying and spewing on social media if another Latino, Black person, Asian person was there, because everybody now thinks they got a big ball of kahunas. And really, it's really disheartening, which is why I don't talk about it, period, because I will snap and pop on your ass in a heartbeat and, tell you how I really feel, but that's not what we do.
Yeah, great share, love. And it takes that self-awareness, as you have talked about, of not snapping and popping and cracking on people because of their lack of awareness of how insensitive their comments come off. One example I wanted to bring up, as we're talking about kind of the friends and family category, is that, as David shared, it's, like, that white girl's no good. Well, of course I'm no good when there's an upset happening, right? Of course, that's just how life is. David's no good if there's an upset happening, and that the lesson in that is where we've learned not to go to our parents and share with them the miscommunication we're having, because David and I have understood after 14 years in this relationship, working towards that 15 year, is that they're all communication breakdowns, and it's not allowing the other person to be shared what they're feeling, what's happening, how they see things, and how it occurs to them, and then turning around and allowing that person to be respected within their share. And that's the big thing of, that communication value. And one thing that we have found, and that I have heard on my family's end, is, why does it always have to kind of turn towards race? Why does every conversation have to be, a comment have to be towards race? Well, it's not that every conversation or comment has to be towards race, but when you start to understand, and understand again is not the right word, when you start to be aware, and so that's me being aware of that word, start being aware of that, as David says, the white boy conversation. David went to school in Atchison, thank you, Atchison, Kansas, which is very rural, and it is predominantly white, and it is white country boy, and I grew up white country boy, and so I know what he means when he says white boy conversation. And when I would share that with my family, it would be like, well, why is it always turned to race? Well, because you don't understand the comments that you say are how insensitive they can be, towards someone who is not the same race as you. And I have sat in my family's presence and just been like, wow. And to understand, I used to also be in the same mentality, and that being in a relationship with Mr. Jones has allowed me that knowledge and to bring me that awareness that I'm like, oh, I see the impact of what I say, when I say, and how I say, and not being very, I wouldn't say calculated in what you share, but just understanding that you can't be saying, I understand how you feel, girl. No, because you've never walked those shoes, right? And one example I wanted to bring about the friends and family was, God rest his soul, the George Floyd incident. There was so much that happened around that for a lot of people. I chose to disconnect and no longer be friends with a handful of girlfriends because of the insensitivity that they brought to that situation, and then labeled the entire Black community. I literally walked away from friends that were my good friends, dear friends, that I just was like, no, you have these people in your life, i.e. me, who has someone I love who is of the same color. You cannot be talking that way with me to accept you as a friend. And you have made a choice. And when you like and you comment and you make stupid ass comments on social media, there's our consequences. And I walked away from 8 girlfriends that I spent a lot of time with, to never talk to them again, because I was like, no, if you can't understand that you're not only me, but there are people in your family that have significant others that are of another race, for you to be able to talk shit and be so insensitive. I do not want you in my life. And that was nearly when did Mr. Floyd pass away? 5 years ago, 6 years ago? Yeah. And so it maybe even longer. I'm sorry, I do not remember the date. But with that, it was just even the upset that happened within, the internal family, within, my brother, and some of the insensitivity that he showed. And that's since been resolved. My brother has since, had a conversation with David, and been able to resolve that. But it's how much rift that happened. And it was May 25th of 2020. Mr. Jones just pulled up. So it's 5 years. We're rolling up on 5 years. And those are the things that David and I always say, it doesn't matter until it comes to your doorstep. And to be very frank, if David and I were not together, and I was, single, I probably would have not said anything to those girlfriends, and I probably still would have been friends with them. But because it was someone who I loved and who was a very important piece of my life, and they couldn't even understand about how insensitive they were showing up, I didn't want them in my life ever again. I did not want to be around that. And that was a choice that I made. And so that's what happens. And Mr. Jones, I'm going to pass this mic back to you, my love. But share about the friends and family that will watch my timeline and never watch yours. They'll like my timeline, but they'll never show up on yours. And it's like, who am I? Chopped liver?
Yeah, that's the crazy part, that the same family members that, kind of have a strife against, us being, interracial couples. The crazy thing is, and friends, family, they will watch Tara's timeline, but they won't watch mine. And the crazy thing about it is,
family?
like both of our family.
Yeah, there you go.
Both of our family.
We're clear
Yeah,
and
like both of our family. Like they'll watch Tara's timeline, but they won't watch mine. And it's and that right there in itself, especially when it comes to family, that and especially when it comes to friends. Like I'll have my guy friends that won't watch my timeline, but Tara posts something, oh, they're all over it. And so I know that if me and Tara don't work, I know exactly who's going to be in her DMs saying, hey, let's talk. So that's the crazy part, about this whole entire thing, is that most people are just, and that's not even, well, I mean, in some portions it is race, it is the interracial couple, because a lot of these people do not really like the fact that we are interracial, but they'll go and look at your timeline. And I'm pretty sure we're not the only people, whether it's white and white, Mexican and Mexican. I'm more than certain other dudes out there, if they do have the open relationship that we have, because we run a business and our social media is our business, that Tara has full access to mine, all of my social media. I have full access to hers. We're not doing nothing. And I think that's also a big part of it as well. When you talk about relationships, right, is that most people don't have the relationship that we have, because at the beginning, no, you can't have my password. No, you can't know all of this information. No, you can't do none of that. Hell no. And some relations are still like that. And, they wonder why things don't work. And that's a big piece of it. And, even when we talk about just the general public, right, when we talked about the church, I'll share with you guys a situation that we've been here in Mexico, now for going over 2 years. And we had 2.5, and we had a guest that came down here and stayed. And mind you, about a year ago, and this young lady went out on a run, and she broke, her ankle, completely shattered it. And for surgery, like me and Tara ran her, to go get her, or Tara took her to go get her surgery. After her surgery and picking her from the hospital, I'm having to carry this lady up the stairs for about a good 2 months. Me and Tara are taking care of this lady, going to buy her groceries, getting her this, getting her that. And I mean, just crazy. And she allowed us to borrow her car. And, we asked her one day, could we borrow her car? And she said, yeah. And, she didn't like the fact that, she didn't like the fact that we borrowed her car and went into town, which is Leon, which is about a good 30 minutes from here. But that was what we were utilizing it for, not for in town in Guanajuato. And so, she gave us a little bit of a strife, when we were in town. And when we got back, I took her keys back downstairs, and, she said, I don't appreciate you guys doing this, doing that. And I just said, hey, look, we're sorry for the inconvenience, this, that, and the other. And guys, she completely did the 180. And the crazy thing about it is, I knew
it was about to happen because my ass recorded the whole entire conversation. The whole entire conversation. And this lady flips and start cursing me out, start talking to me crazy. And I mean, just uncalled for completely. And Tara comes downstairs and she all of a sudden changes her tune, changes her vibration, and does this Karen shit that we all know. Us as Black people, we know what happens. Oh, I didn't do anything. He did this, he did that. And Tara's been listening to the whole conversation because we've been having this conversation of what's going to take place because we already knew what was happening. And it was just crazy how just how she talked to me compared to when she talked to Tara. And these are, she might not be racist, but these are the little synchronicities that she put in there, like, oh, you're getting loud. And I'm like, hold on, I'm not getting loud. And this is the thing that happens for us as Black people, that, oh, we go to talk and it's all of a sudden you're aggressive, or the angry Black woman. And you get to talk, but it's passionate, and I'm just expressing myself. And it's two different worlds. And then even this is where the goalpost comes into play, where we might be talking about one thing and you change it to another, and we're still on this one thing, and the conversation gets changed. And so it's just the you have to be in it. And Tara definitely can share more from, you know, her side of how she saw it compared to how, you know, I took it.
Yeah, just in that situation, from kind of the greater part of that is how much we assisted this person and helped this person, because essentially they broke their ankle and we're on the third story, and where we are in Mexico is very hilly. It is mountains. You are, and it is cobblestone. And so there's nothing level, nothing. It is not like America where everything has sidewalks and nice pretty steps. And so it was a lot of, you know, hey, can you get my groceries? Hey, I need this. Hey, I need that. And so, you know, being able to use her, you know, hey, here's the keys to my car. And even with that, one thing that David didn't share was the communication that we had shared with her was, hey, can we use the car to go into town? We need to go into town and get a few things. Do you need anything? Would that be okay? Are you okay with us using? Even though she shared with us multitude of times, you do not have to ask to use my car. Just go ahead and use it. But we always felt, no, we need to let her know, hey, is it okay? Because that's just who we are. And for her to have the upset that she did, based on that, because she had a misunderstanding of what into town meant. And again, we live in a very small town, but we need to go into the larger town. And from where I'm from, when you say into town, that means you got to go into the city, into the big town, in to get groceries and things like that. And so again, a miscommunication, but the way that it was handled, and David was like, I will take her keys down. We'll just say, hey, sorry, you know, here's your keys, no problem. We apologize. Thank you so much. We've washed the car. We filled it up with gas. We left it for, you know, to make sure that it was taken care of. And we apologize for the misunderstanding. That upset her and David went down and delivered that. Now, if I would have went down and delivered it, it would have been completely different, because her reaction was to yell at David, to scream at David, to, you know, throw a chair out the door kind of towards David as David was walking out the door of the unit. And then when I showed up, the demeanor changed instantly. I mean, instantly. And I heard everything. And so when she started to say, oh, Tara, I don't know what's wrong, I simply said, no. You're not going to speak to David in one manner and then change your tune and speak to me in a different manner. This conversation's over. Have a good night. And we went upstairs. And that right there, I shared with David, was I wouldn't have understood that if I hadn't had those conversations. David hadn't shared those experiences with me. And so that is just one of many experiences, guys, that we have had. You know, the last, as we kind of wrap this amazing conversation up, is kind of the generalizations and where race comes into play, the interracial relationship comes into play for us in business and in kind of just, we've talked about the general public and things like that. One thing I wanted to share as we kind of kick off and share a little bit more about this category as we, get ready to wrap this conversation up is that, in business, I notice now that people will listen to me differently. And I didn't realize that until David had pointed that out to me a multitude of times. And then shared with me, see how that person responds to you versus me. We can even be in the same conversation. David can say something, they'll respond, and then I can say something and they'll respond. So it's not on two different occasions. It's even in the same conversations. We have seen, people within business, have that demeanor and that tone and that difference. Like I'm acting in a different way when this person here is within, conversation with me. And it's appalling. I mean, and David and I joke back and forth. You can't even spell the word appalled, but that's just from a movie line. But it's appalling to know that I can literally follow David up and say the exact same thing David said, and people will respond to me differently. Mr. Jones, you've had a lot more experience in this, especially with corporate America and all that. Share more, my love.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is crazy in itself. Is that just in corporate America alone, there would be multiple times that my counterparts would underperform, underdeliver, and they would not get any disciplinary actions or anything whatsoever. And I could always be doing things a little bit better, or associating a business in a better way, and I would get chastised. I would never forget working at this one company. We had to do quarterly reviews, and we had to go to corporate, and we had to fly to Boston and present our territory. And I had everything. I had 21 states at one point. And I specifically remember, watching this one guy get up on stage, have his presentation wrong, have his numbers wrong. I mean, he didn't know his ass from his elbow in his business, and nobody gave him any slack. When it was time for the executives to ask questions or to drill him on numbers that were clearly wrong, that we all were seeing on his numbers and what he was saying, nobody said a word. And when it was time for me to present, guys, I was up there almost 3 hours getting drilled on what about this, what about that. My numbers were right, but I was getting asked hypothetical questions. I was getting asked questions that, out of left field. I was getting drilled down on this. I mean, it was like, and I had other counterparts in there that were the same color, and they were like looking at me like, what is going on? And mind you, at that time, I was the number one salesperson throughout 5 of us, throughout the whole entire country. And it even got to a point where they fired one young lady, and I had to, take over her actual territory. So now I have everything of the west of the Mississippi. This company decided that they, not only did I find out, they were paying her $25,000 more than me with a less territory. They wanted to then give me only a $5,000 raise over the whole year, and then tell me, we're going to give you 3 right now, but if you hit the numbers, you're then going to get this extra 2. When, mind you, they just got rid of a person that they were paying $125,000 to and paying me $25,000 less, and wanted me to take over her entire territory. So this means that I'm flying from Houston to California, Houston to Chicago, Houston to Wyoming, Houston to Oregon, Houston to, Seattle, Houston to, Arizona. I am everything west of the Mississippi, Kansas, all of that. And I'm handling her territory, half the country, and they didn't want to pay me. And so these are just some of the things that,
most people don't understand and they won't get it. And especially in the corporate world and even in our business, in our business that we have now, Tara's absolutely spot on. You know, I could talk to people and say things and it goes in one ear and go out the other. Tara says it. And even with my own Black people, which blows my mind, they will listen to Tara and eat her every word that she says, but I'll say it and it's like disregarded. And it's crazy in a sense. And it's part of the conditioning, it's part of the unawareness, it's part of that programming that we have. And really, you know, that's why we're having this conversation, for all of us to really, you know, take that self-awareness and reflect, not regret, and be aware of how you are talking to people and how you do look at other religions and races. And, you know, look, being here in Mexico, you know, and then we started our life out in Colombia, you know, moving to Colombia. Tara asked me one day walking, you know, from the beach. And she said, baby, she said, hey, she said, how do you feel here compared to back at home in Houston? And I looked at her and I said, baby, here, I don't feel hunted. You know, back in the States, going out, you know, leaving the house and wearing this, you can't wear that, can't do this, don't turn here, don't go to this neighborhood, don't do this, you can't do that. I felt hunted back in the United States, where in Colombia, you know, I didn't feel hunted at all. We would walk by cops. Majority of the cops were women. They were nice. They, you know, they didn't, you know, give me that look or, hey, what you doing, or that energy and vibration that so many of us have, you know, in the States. I'll never forget, I got pulled over in Houston, Texas after coming back from LA, and I had paid the ticket before I left. And the cop pulled me over and said, you know why I pulled you over? I was like, nope. He's like, you got a warrant out for your arrest. I said, you mean this ticket with the payment, with the letter from the lady that said I had paid it with the receipt, all of that? I'm on a date. He said, I got to take you to jail. Sorry. Even though you got the paperwork. This guy goes and searches through my car with the young lady that I'm taking out. And he literally says, because she told me, this Negro has his car clean. I've never seen a Negro with his car that's clean, and he golfs as well, because my golf clubs were in the back. She told me they were talking so much shit about me while going through my car, searching my car while I'm in the back seat, you know, in cuffs, wondering why the hell I'm going to jail when I just showed this man the receipts, the letter, everything that he could have literally let me go and let me go to the courthouse and get it all figured out, because I definitely paid and the letter says it, but he insisted on taking me to jail. And so there's so many things as we go from business to that story, right, that definitely most people don't get, and just the awareness around it that we have. So that's what I got, you know, on the story, and really allowing people to get an inside glimpse of the things that they don't go through. And the biggest thing, like you said, you don't know until it hits you at your front doorstep. You don't know until the cops pull over, you know, your uncle, your father, put their knee on his damn neck where he can't breathe, and now he's dead when he was just here yesterday, and he's dead over what? And it doesn't hit home. Just like it doesn't hit home that your house is flooded, that your house is on fire, that your son died, that your brother died, that you know, your mom died, or your husband died. You don't know that feeling until it hits home. And so often we have these worst case scenarios, or what we've been trained and conditioned in society way of being pinned up against one another, which is just stupid in itself. Because I'm telling y'all now, these damn aliens pop out this mofo and drop down on this motherfucker. People ain't gonna be worried about what color you are. You human, I'm human. These damn aliens down here, we need to be worried about them. And so I've been saying that for the longest, and it looks like it's getting closer and closer, whether they come in here in peace or whether they come down here, you know, and mess up some stuff, because it's already messed up. If anything, they're gonna make it better, which I believe that's what they're here for. And yes, the aliens are true. So if you sitting there wondering, oh shit, is this guy telling the truth? Yes, you need to pay attention. The government has already said they are here, right? And so buckle up, buttercups. 2025 is going to be, an amazing year. And it's the best time to live as long as you live in the positive vibration, because broke people will think of problems. Rich people will think of, solutions. And I don't mean rich in the pocketbook. I mean rich in energy, rich in vibration, rich and just overall positive ways of thinking, and knowing that it's already done as long as you can create and not be in the survivor mode. That's what we mean by rich. What you got, Lev?
Well, I think that's a great conversation, to wrap this on. While I was listening to you, I thought about, this conversation was very much from a standpoint of, what you shared with me, experiences you shared with me, this is, how life shows up for you. Maybe we do a part 2 of this one, and it shows up as through the lenses of a white female. And so we'll bring a part 2 to you guys on a differencing of how this perspective shows up. Today we really showed the perspective of Mr. Jones, how that shows up, how life shows up, how it occurs, how the experiences that he has, and how that has impacted me from being in a relationship, and him sharing those with me. And there's been times it's been easy shares, it's been times when it's been hard shares, because not only is it experiences, it's also traumas, and that's another conversation that we can do. Part 3 is the generational traumas that have been broken. David and I have done a lot of work around generational traumas, and traumas that we both endured, and so being able to have conversations around that and kind of share more about how that has been able to really shape us. Piping in as we wrap up here, last night we were listening into a conversation, and this will lead into where you were talking about not feeling hunted in Colombia anymore. You don't feel hunted here in Mexico either. So that's a beautiful thing. But it comes down to really understanding that this conversation and one reason why we chose to decide to go be digital nomads, digital entrepreneurs, and travel the world and leave Houston, Texas, where our business was based, was because of the experiences David has shared very much in depth here, that I have shared in depth. And as as we get to move around the world and spread our wings, we always take in consideration that like, where's a good place to go next that is going to be happy to see both of us, not that, oh, this is a safe place to commute, and guys, living in Houston, Texas, there's a lot of really cool things in rural Texas. But let me tell you, rural Texas is not for everybody. If you are of white skin, it might be for you, but if you are of a different colored skin, it is not for you. And what I mean by that is there's towns in Texas that do not look upon having a bunch of different colored people within their town, especially at night after the sun has set. This is stuff that is still happening to this day. And people think, no, that's what, happened 20, 30 years ago. It's still happening to this day. There's still incidences where people of color show up in towns that they didn't know they were not welcomed in, and they don't leave. And so we have to understand that, like, when David and I first started dating, I'd be like, let's go to this part of Texas. And he'd be like, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. And that is something I've had to come real aware of, is that not everybody can travel everywhere. And so as we become digital entrepreneurs and we are traveling the world now, and we've been to Colombia, we've been to Mexico, and hope to spread our wings soon, moving forward. But as we spread those wings, we take in consideration, is it safe for both of us to travel there? And I will tell you that it's really refreshing, and David and I've had this conversation. It's refreshing from the simple fact that we can travel outside the United States borders and be treated differently in a positive manner. whether you are white or black. Or any other color. And we're not saying everywhere outside of the borders, but we are saying it's really cool to be able to do that. And that's one reason why we did choose to kind of venture out and become digital entrepreneurs and leave the United States. So we will bring part 2 to you guys that will be quote unquote from the white girl eyes point of view, and just having some fun there. But you guys, we appreciate you guys being here. This has been an enlightening conversation for everybody who's tuned in. We appreciate you, whether you've listened live right now. Thank you to all of you beautiful souls for being here live with us. And for those that are coming down the pipeline and going to listen to this in the future, what we wish for you is to gain more awareness of not only yourself, but how you impact others around you. And you might work in a corporate position that has an ethnical diverse background. Just understand that how you are impacting others by the words you use, by the body language that you show up in. And yes, we all have bad days. That is understandable, but it is to be aware. My wish for everybody is not only just a life full of joy, but it also is a life full of self-awareness, because self-awareness is a beautiful thing. It really allows you to understand who you are, how you're showing up in this world, how you're impacting others by just your nonverbal and with your verbal. And so I hope this conversation has been impactful and helpful to you. We share lots of love to you guys, but we also share with you that there is something going on, and it is continued to be a societal issue, and we as a community must have conversations like this. We must be able to allow someone, as Mr. Jones, a black man, has shared with me, as a white woman, that, hey, this is how things happen. This is what happens to me. This is the experiences I've had. And from my point of view, not to garner a stance of defense, but to garner a stance of, you know what, I appreciate you sharing that, because that has given me a self-awareness of not only how I show up in the world, but now it brings me aware of other people. And if that is an issue, to be aware of how other people treat you. And, Mr. Jones, I think this is something that we see deep rooted in the United States society. And I don't mean to pick on, our country, but this is what's real. I don't see that as we have traveled to a couple other countries. And I'm just sharing that from my perspective. And you're nodding your head yes over here, that it sounds like you also might have a similar understanding. So we'll wrap this conversation up. Mr. Jones, any closing remarks as we wrap this beautiful thing up?
Yeah, I just encourage you guys all to, take this conversation, very seriously and openly, because you guys know the drill. The 4 most expensive things is a closed mind, closed mouth, closed heart, and a closed hand. And that's what we're all about, is raising your vibrations and helping you guys understand, especially as we kick off, episode 5 with our season 3 of our Getting Naked podcast, that if you don't know, this is one of the first in podcasts in the metaverse, that we want you guys to come and join us from your cell phone, from your laptop, from your iPad, or if you do have the VR headsets, you too can be a part of this amazing conversation by visiting our amazing Biz in a Box, more than a website, more than, your crusty, dusty landing page, especially that link tree or, 10K thing, whatever you might have. You need to upgrade your systems and upgrade your business into the future, because this is the future of engaging. Nobody wants to show up with old school, screens or videos or things of that sort. So definitely make sure you guys are, seeing how we're pivoting our business. And before we get out of here, right, we want to share with you guys our amazing Biz in a Box. If you don't know about it, you should know about it, and definitely go to the Hello LLC and learn more. So here we go.
Sick of wasting time? Exhausted from managing chaos instead of running your business? Do you feel like your business is running you instead? Say goodbye to the chaos and say hello to a smart link that saves you time. Introducing the Biz in a Box.
With the Biz in a Box, you're not just implementing AI and upgrading your website. You are actually unlocking an all-in-one smart link that revolutionizes your foundation and systems while showcasing, marketing, and managing your business. Say goodbye to juggling endless tools, chaos, and outdated business cards. With our one app, one tap system, clients can access your products, services, and resources instantly via your link and QR code.
Just imagine everything your audience needs, beautifully and strategically presented in one seamless hub, designed to save you time, streamline your workflows, keep your audience engaged, and making your life easier. This is the future of business, built for forward-thinking entrepreneurs that are serious about growth and creating a solid foundation with systems that work today and pivot you into the future as Web3 approaches.
Stop living in the past. End the chaos and be the boss. Step into the future with the Biz in a Box. The future is already here.
And as always, you guys know the drill. Come and visit us in the Hello Plaza in Metaverse for our weekly rooms from our Hack the Future AI FinTech Metaverse that happens on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are live then on all of our social media platforms, from LinkedIn, from Instagram, from Twitch to X, aka Spaces, and our actual, other platforms, including TikTok. So definitely make sure you guys come and join us, and then bring it back on Wednesday for our Wisdom Wednesday, where we talk about so many amazing topics, where we're going to be starting, our amazing Dr. Joe Rewired series. This is something definitely that we love revisiting every single year, and we want to share this with you guys to rewire your thoughts, rewire your energy, and really just give you a new perspective of life and how you can really change your energy to change your world. And so definitely come join us on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as well. And then definitely make sure you guys tune in for our Hello Pivot broadcast, live broadcast that we have. That's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we bring special guests, Mikasa, Sukasa. They can talk about their business. We can talk about how AI and all this new technology is impacting, and really get to collaborate, because collaboration is the new currency at the end of the day. So definitely you guys chime in, tune in, and definitely come and experience something different in the Hello Plaza.
Yeah. And with that said, guys, thanks so much for being here. And we know the drill: love,
Kindness,
integrity,
but most importantly,
commitment,
and
consistency.
And until next time,
Toodles! Hasta luego, mi amigos. Thanks for being here.